Right, let's get to Manchester United and Erik Ten Hag's future now. Their goalless draw with Aston Villa confirmed their worst start to a Premier League season, left them 14th going into the international break. So Jim Ratcliffe and Joel Glazer are at Old Trafford today to fulfil a long scheduled visit for various meetings before their monthly executive committee in London tomorrow. Our senior reporter Melissa Reddy is there for us right now. Melissa, good to see you again. You've seen Ratcliffe and Joel Glazer arriving at Old Trafford today. If INEOS do decide to sack Ten Hag, would that be an admission they got it wrong in the summer, do you feel?
How else would we square the fact that they had this strategic review which dragged on for 2.5 weeks and that encompassed speaking to a variety of managers across Europe, which was so undermining for Erik Ten Hag? They've then decided to stick with him, to back him with recruitment, and then publicly so through sporting director Dan Ashworth and the CEO Omar Berrada, only to then turn around and sack him so early in the season. The way INEOS handled their entire process was flawed because it meant that at the first sign of any trouble this season, there was going to be this unrelenting noise and pressure around Ten Hag's position because their own process showed that they didn't have full credence in him. You wouldn't speak to other managers if you were convinced about who you already had in post. And what then happens is it starts to infiltrate the minds of the players, the performance. As Johnny Evans told Sky Sports News yesterday, it does have an effect because they're only human, and it affects the staff as well because they're having to deal with all this noise and pressures and expectations. Then when you speak to the club, there is this indication that the hierarchy, they want to be very measured in how they take the next steps. They're not going to be reacting to any of the external noise and pressure. They're viewing things holistically. At this point, I think I need to stress that it's still being viewed that the key issue for Manchester United at the start of the season is a lack of cutting edge in the final third. They've only scored 5 goals, but they are significantly, severely underperforming their expected goals. They're, by some distance, the worst in the league at it. When you look at the goals they've conceded, it's the same amount as Manchester City and Chelsea. So very clear there where their key problem area is. Now, whether the underlying numbers will count as much as the fact that this is the worst start to a Premier League season for United. They're 14th in the league. They're also winless across 5 games in all competitions. So is the underlying numbers going to count as much as the reality of the situation? We'll soon find out.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Look, Melissa, what do you feel has changed in the managerial landscape since they decided to stick with Ten Hag?
Well, the communication that INEOS gave us for their decision to stick with Erik Ten Hag after the strategic review was they felt they already had the best man for the job in position after all their recon, which, like we said, included speaking to a host of managers around Europe. So it would be quite awkward for them if they now had to circle back to somebody they decided wasn't good enough in the summer or wasn't better than Ten Hag. Now, a few of the options are off the table. Thomas Tuchel is not one of them because he is still out of work. And my understanding from the summer is that negotiations went the furthest with Tuchel over the possibility of replacing Ten Hag. That was followed by Roberto De Zerbi and Maurizio Pochettino. Now they are both unavailable. Kieran McKenna, who was very, very highly thought of, he ruled himself out of the running very quickly by signing a contract extension with Ipswich. So the only real significant change in the landscape is the availability of Gareth Southgate, who we know is close to the hierarchy of Manchester United, but they are very well aware that he would be an unpopular appointment. Then there is also the possibility of placing Ruud van Nistelrooy in interim charge, which you think would be a consideration. Now, there is this line of thought that the whole reason Van Nistelrooy is part of United's coaching staff is that INEOS brought him on board because they were foreshadowing this kind of situation where they would need an interim. But I think it's important to deny that. That is a myth, because the person who actually brought Van der Roy on board was Erik Ten Hag himself.
OK, good to get that clear. Thank you very much, Melissa.